Hey there, it's Ash, and I just got off of a really fascinating client conversation that is not the usual for me. I think a lot of people, when it comes to their worthiness, they have a story about themselves that they don't deserve their dreams, or that they're not good enough, or that they aren't capable of actually having what they want. That's what I see quite often. But every now and again, I'll come across somebody that knows they're great, knows they're capable, knows that they have a lot to give, and yet is afraid that if they step into that, if they step into their light, that they're going to lose people, that they're going to be lonely. And this is a very sneaky belief. A lot of the times, the fear of shining too bright is one of those beliefs that people don't totally notice. And what I want to talk about, I think, when it comes to this is codependency. And to me, codependency is operating in a certain way to prevent other people from being uncomfortable, or from feeling uncomfortable feelings, or feeling what you think might be bad about themselves. And so what are some signs that you're codependent? One sign might be that you're afraid to speak up because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, but you think what you think and you feel what you feel. Another sign of codependency might be tiptoeing, like you're tiptoeing around somebody, you're on eggshells because you're afraid of a really big reaction. Maybe you're in a relationship with somebody that has a lot of rage or anger, or you're afraid you're going to lose the person, so you don't want to say something because you think you might lose them. There's a codependency to that. But what I want to share with you is that at the end of the day, there's two sides of every street. There's your side and somebody else's side. And one of the most codependent things that I think we often do is we try to clean up the street on somebody's side. Meaning, if somebody's insecure, if somebody isn't clear with how they feel and they're projecting anger at you, that's their side of the street. But your side of the street, what you want to keep clear, is in your relationship with yourself. So what that means is speaking up. That means setting boundaries. And that just means ultimately honoring yourself through that. So what does it look like when you set a boundary? It looks like clarifying something. So let's say somebody's passive aggressive towards you, and maybe you have a fear of speaking up because it's going to make them uncomfortable because you're basically calling them out, right? My invitation would be to get curious. Don't make assumptions. Because the moment we make an assumption, we've come up with a story that we don't even know is true for the other person. Maybe our intuition is accurate. Maybe our intuition is picking up on something that they're thinking. But ultimately, you just want to get curious. So if somebody's passive aggressive towards you, it's not your job to manage their side of their street, but it is your job to honor yourself and step up and speak up. And if you're in fear, or you're afraid you're going to lose somebody, or you're afraid they're not going to like you, that's your side of the street. That's your relationship with yourself you want to manage. So I would say asking yourself, what am I believing about myself, about the other person, if I speak up? What is the judgment I'm holding? What is the limiting belief? So you can fill in the blank right now. If I speak up, they will think that I'm, and fill in the blank. What are they going to think if you speak up? If I speak up, I am, you're what? Do you think you're a bitch? You're an asshole? Like, what do you think about yourself speaking up? And then the second question to ask yourself, is that true? Because at the end of the day, the relationship you have in life that you're going to spend the most time with is the one with yourself. And when you allow people to be passive aggressive, to make digs at you, what that really is a mirror for how your relationship is with yourself. You're showing yourself that it's okay to break yourself down. And when you awkwardly laugh, or there's a way, I think, of the way you behave when people put you down or are passive aggressive. Maybe you're in fear of speaking up, and maybe you'll laugh or you'll be quiet, but that silence is tacitly giving them permission to put you down. And ultimately that comes down to two things: being liked or being respected. So when you're interested in being liked, that comes from your social self. That comes from the part of you in your upbringing that learned that when you survive in the world, it's better when people like you, right? It helps your survival. But there's another layer here, and it's your professional self. The person that you can truly be, the person that wants to be respected, the person that wants to make an impact. It reminds me of a meeting, I remember when I was in the corporate world in counterterrorism, there was a guy that was always late, and he was in charge of my team. And he'd always show up late, and I remember everybody was there for the meeting, and somebody said, hey, where's, let's call him Bob. Where's Bob? And people rolled their eyes. Well, Bob's always late. And Bob got in front of the team and he started, trying to step into his leadership, making suggestions, but nobody respected him because he's always late. And the story people, I think had on a subconscious level is maybe he doesn't respect himself. He's not showing up for his commitments. So if he's not going to show up, why should we respect him? And then Bob's boss, let's just call him Bob, Bob's boss said, hey, Bob, it's really time for you to stop being late. And we could see how uncomfortable his boss was in the room when he said to him, hey, can you stop being late? And after the meeting, I went up to him and I said, hey, I noticed that Bob has been late a lot of times. Like, what made you say something today? And he said, well, for the longest time, I was scared that, he wouldn't like me. And I didn't want to be an unlikable boss. But I noticed that everyone in the room didn't respect him, so he's not even being effective. And what that taught me in the workplace is that what it comes down to is making a decision. Do I want to be liked or do I want to be respected? And ultimately, I think what it comes down to after that is trust. Trusting that the people who get you, the people who want to be in their own empowerment, are going to be inspired by you standing in your power. And the people who are insecure, who want you to dim your light, who are passive aggressive, they're going to just shrink away, because ultimately when you stand in your power, when you clarify with people. So if somebody's passive aggressive and you say, hey, and you don't make an assumption and you just say, hey, I just want to circle back. I didn't totally understand what you meant by that. You are holding people accountable for their behavior towards you, and you are holding yourself accountable for the environment that you want to be in by clarifying, by asking for respect. And so I hope that this sits with you and you can make a decision today to create relationships in your life that really respect you, especially in your career. And to ask yourself, where are you operating in your career out of wanting people just to like you? And how can you be more powerful? What can you do? What are the situations that happen where people aren't respecting you? And how are you allowing that to continue? Are you nervously laughing? Are you being silent and not saying anything? And why? What is it that you're afraid of when it comes to speaking up? And obviously, this is something that I was just coaching someone in my private practice about. And she really inspires me because listening to her, she's one of the most capable women I've heard. And she knows what a hard worker she is. But when people put her down, she doesn't want to speak up because she wants her team to like her. But ultimately, my thought is I want her to like her. And how can she like herself if she lets people put her down? So it's time for us to all clean up our side of the street and love ourselves. And that means setting boundaries, because a no to someone can be a yes to you. And that's the relationship you want to look out for. So would love to hear what you think of this. Sending you lots of love. And I hope you have an amazing day.